The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, a fan retelling Part 1, The Call of Courage. Chapter 1, Awakening. In the tranquil cradle of Kokori's forest, where ancient trees stretched their branches like protectors reaching for the sky, life hummed with quiet magic. The air was thick with the scent of moss and earth, dappled sunlight playing on the emerald leaves. Here, childhood was eternal. The Kokoris were a secretive folk, forest children who never aged, forever shielded by their mystical guardian fairies. Each child's spirit was tethered to a light that danced invisibly by their side, their laughter ringing through the woods like the tinkling of chimes. Yet one boy was different. Link, a child without a fairy. The absence was not lost on him, nor on the Kokoris around him. His green tunic and cap, worn yet clean, marked him as one destined for more than simple woodland games. Despite the playful taunts from Mito, the Kokoris leader, "No fairy? You're not really one of us, huh?" There was a spark within Link's deep eyes that bespoke a courage far beyond his years. Surya, the gentle soul of the forest, was one of Link's closest friends and confidantes. Her presence was like a soothing breeze, warm and reassuring. "You're brave, Link," she said softly, the glow of her fairy light flickering gently. "The forest feels different around you. Something important awaits." Link listened, absorbing the unspoken truth that lingered between them. He could not speak, but his actions were clear. He was ready to face whatever destiny awaited. The forest children taught Link much about their way of life, their friendship with the trees, the secret paths only known to them, and the magical tools they carried. Among these were the slingshot, used to fire pebbles with surprising accuracy, and the Kokori's sword, a simple but effective blade forged to protect the innocent. The Kokori's shield, emblazoned with the emblem of their forest home, a green leaf surrounded by vines, was given to Link with solemn respect. "Protect yourself with this shield," said the elder Kokori, voice hushed yet firm. "But remember, the shield only guards the body. It cannot guard the spirit. That strength comes from within." Link lifted the shield, its weight familiar, steadying his resolve. Before he could step beyond the safety of the forest, Link was told tales older than the tallest tree. The land of Hyrule, the vast kingdom that sprawled beyond the forest's edge, was forged by the hands of three golden goddesses, Din, Nayru, and Farore. From their power, the world had been created, and with it, the sacred Triforce. Three golden triangles embodying power, wisdom, and courage. The Triforce grants the wish of whoever touches it, the elder told him. But it is also a beacon to those who would misuse its power. It was said that long ago, the evil Ganondorf, king of the Gerudo tribe, had sought to seize the Triforce to conquer Hyrule, but was thwarted by the hero of time, who sealed him away in the sacred realm. Now that evil was stirring once again. At the heart of Kokori's forest stood the great Deku tree, an ancient sentinel of bark and leaf, whose roots burrowed deep into the earth and whose branches reached to the heavens. The tree was both protector and prophet, his voice a thunderous whisper in the wind. "Link," the Deku tree rumbled, "the curse of darkness has touched me. My strength fades as evil grows. You must cleanse this forest before the shadow spreads." The tree's vast eyes glowed with sorrow, ancient knowledge etched into every crevice of his bark. He revealed a malevolent force, a spawn of darkness lurking within his own chambers, a venomous spider-like creature infecting the heart of the forest's life. The great Deku tree entrusted Link with a sacred task, to enter his trunk and rid the evil from within. Before entering the tree, Link's sword was sharpened, the blade gleaming in the dappled light. The Kokori's shield was strapped firmly to his arm. He also gathered a few precious items from the forest, slingshot ammunition, a few healing herbs, and the magic beans that sprouted from the fertile earth, promising aid in times of need. Though he did not speak, the glint in Link's eyes was clear. He understood the gravity of the journey ahead. Saria stepped beside him once more, offering a gift. "When you're lost, close your eyes and think of me. I will be your guide." Link nodded silently, the connection between them a tether of hope and friendship. With the blessing of the Kokoris, the sword at his side, and shield on his arm, Link moved towards the towering great Deku tree. His footsteps were steady, his spirit unyielding. The forest seemed to hold its breath, watching as its chosen hero prepared to face the darkness within. Chapter 2, The Great Deku Tree. The ancient bark creaked and groaned like a living fortress as Link approached the base of the Great Deku Tree. His small hands rested on the hilt of his sword, his shield firm on his arm. The air around him thickened, heavy with an ominous weight that unsettled the peaceful forest. This was no ordinary day. The Great Deku Tree's immense eyes, wide and sorrowful, opened slowly. His voice, deep and echoing like the rumble of distant thunder, greeted Link. "Ah, Link, I have been waiting for you." Though Link remained silent, his gaze was steady, unwavering. "A dark curse plagues my heart," the Deku Tree said, his voice heavy with ancient grief. "An evil spawn festers within me, poisoning the forest. It is a poison only you can cleanse." The tree's massive branches swayed, casting long shadows as he continued. "Within my roots lies the source of this darkness. You must enter and destroy it." With a final nod from Link, the Deku Tree parted a gnarled doorway carved deep into his trunk, revealing a dim passage that descended into shadow. Inside, the air grew thick with decay. The passage was lined with twisted roots, and the faintest shimmer of glowing fungus clung to the walls, casting eerie green light. This was Link's first true test. The echoes of unseen creatures slithered and skittered in the dark. Small skulltulas, spider-like beasts with glowing eyes, hung in webs that blocked the path, their venomous bites a danger to any who dared proceed. Link drew his sword silently, the blade catching faint light as he deftly cut through webs and dispatched the lurking foes with precise strikes. Along the way, he discovered hidden alcoves containing items vital to his quest. From a chest, he retrieved the Deku Shield, a sturdy wooden shield crafted from the bark of ancient trees, designed to protect him from harm. It was heavier and more reliable than the fragile Kokori's shield he had carried before. Further along, a treasure glimmered in the shadows. The Deku Nuts, small but potent projectiles that could stun enemies when thrown. They would prove invaluable in combat against foes too quick or too dangerous for the sword. Deeper into the tree's labyrinthine interior, the walls throbbed with malevolent energy. The oppressive darkness grew denser as Link approached the heart of the corruption. Finally, in a chamber illuminated by sickly green light, he faced the source of the poison. A massive, grotesque Queen Goma, a monstrous arachnid with a single glaring red eye, dripping venom and malice. The battle was fierce and unforgiving. Queen Goma's eye was vulnerable, but it opened only briefly, just before her attacks. Link's reflexes, sharpened by his training, allowed him to strike true with his sword and stun her with a well-timed Deku Nut. After a tense and exhausting duel, Queen Goma collapsed in a heap, her evil broken. With the creature defeated, the corruption began to lift. The great tree's wounds healed, and a warm golden light filled the chamber. The Deku Tree's voice returned, calm and full of gratitude. "You have done well, young hero. The forest is safe once more." Yet there was a new urgency in his tone. "But your journey has only just begun. Beyond this forest lies Hyrule Castle, where the fate of the land itself will be decided." He pressed a small, ancient relic into Link's hand, the fairy slingshot, an early but powerful weapon for ranged attacks. "Go now," the Great Deku Tree said. "Seek Princess Zelda. She will guide you on the path to save Hyrule." Link emerged from the great tree, the sunlight warm and bright upon his face. The Kokori's forest seemed alive with renewed hope, but the weight of his quest pressed heavily on his shoulders. With sword, shield, and slingshot at his side, he stepped beyond the forest's edge, onto the dusty roads that led to Hyrule Castle. The vast kingdom awaited, a place of towering walls, bustling townsfolk, and hidden dangers. In his heart, Link carried the words of the Great Deku Tree and the hope of the Kokori's people. The hero's journey had truly begun. As Link stepped out from the shadowed depths of the Great Deku Tree, the forest seemed to breathe anew. Leaves rustled softly in the breeze, and shafts of sunlight pierced the canopy, illuminating the mossy floor beneath his feet. The sickness that had once hung over Kokori's forest had lifted, replaced by a fragile sense of peace. Moving through the familiar paths, Link's heart, though silent, was filled with a quiet hope. Among the trees, a gentle voice called to him, clear and warm as ever. "Link!" Turning, he saw Saria, her emerald eyes sparkling with relief and joy. Her fairy light hovered close, a comforting glow that seemed to brighten even the dimmest corners of the woods. Without words, Saria stepped forward, offering Link a small, carved wooden case, the Ocarina of Time. "I want you to have this," she said softly. "The song you play on it will always connect us, no matter where you are." Link accepted the gift carefully, the smooth surface of the ocarina cool and smooth in his hands. As his fingers traced the delicate holes, a quiet understanding passed between them, a promise that their bond would endure whatever trials lay ahead. "When you play the ocarina," Saria explained, "think of me. The melody will guide you, and I will be with you in spirit." The forest seemed to hold its breath as Link raised the ocarina to his lips and blew gently. The clear, haunting notes floated through the air, songs of courage, hope, and friendship. For a moment, the past and future merged. A boy without a fairy, now the chosen hero, ready to face the darkness that threatened all of Hyrule. Saria's smile was both bittersweet and full of faith. "Go now, Link. The path is yours." With the Ocarina of Time safe in his grasp, Link turned away, stepping onto the winding road leading toward Hyrule Castle, his destiny unfolding with each silent step. Chapter 3: Journey to the Castle. The road from Kokori's forest to Hyrule Castle stretched long and winding, bordered by fields of golden grass swaying gently in the breeze. Link's footsteps were steady and sure, each step echoing his resolve. Though the forest's shadow still lingered faintly behind him, the sprawling kingdom ahead beckoned with new promise and challenges. The high stone walls of Hyrule Castle rose proudly against the horizon, crowned by fluttering banners bearing the royal crest, a symbol of hope and authority. The bustling town outside the castle gates was alive with the noise of daily life. Merchants hawked their wares in vibrant stalls that spilled into narrow streets. Townsfolk moved purposefully, some pausing to smile at the green-capped boy who had entered their midst. Link took in his surroundings with cautious curiosity. The market was a tapestry of color and sound. The clink of coins, the laughter of children chasing stray chickens, and the rich aroma of fresh bread mingling with the earthy scent of nearby fields. As Link wandered through the market, the inhabitants of Hyrule noticed the young stranger. Though he spoke no words, their greetings came freely. "You look like someone destined for greatness," said the shopkeeper of the potion shop, wiping his hands on a rag. "You'll need these if you want to survive the dangers beyond." From behind the counter, Link glimpsed rows of colorful bottles, green, red, and blue potions, each promising to restore health or magic. Though expensive, their value was unquestionable. Near the bomb shop, a burly man named Bomber shared a nod of approval. "If you want to blow up rocks or uncover secrets, you'll want to grab some bombs. They're dangerous, but useful." Link also encountered the old man who ran the archery shop, offering him arrows and tips on aiming with the slingshot he carried. The man's voice carried wisdom, a hint that skill and patience would be as important as bravery. Aware that his journey would be fraught with peril, Link made careful stops at each stall. From the potion shop, he purchased a small supply of green potions, their glowing liquid promising to heal wounds that sword and shield could not prevent. At the bomb shop, he acquired a handful of bombs, stored carefully in a satchel at his side, their ticking potential a reminder of destructive power held in fragile shells. The archery shop gifted him a quiver of arrows, tightly packed and ready to fly, true at his command. In a quieter corner of the market, Link found a humble stall selling fairy bottles, small glass containers designed to safely hold a fairy, magical creatures capable of reviving a fallen hero when caught within. Remembering the forest and Saria's promise, Link felt the importance of such protection keenly. As the sun began to lower, casting long shadows over the castle walls, Link's path led him to the castle courtyard, where the atmosphere grew heavier with expectation. Knights in gleaming armor marched solemnly, their eyes watchful but respectful. Servants bustled about, preparing for what was whispered to be an urgent meeting with Princess Zelda herself. Though Link was but a boy among kings and courtiers, his quiet determination drew the eyes of those who understood the tides of fate. That evening, as Link rested beneath a sprawling oak in the castle town square, he allowed himself a rare moment of stillness. The ocarina rested in his hands, smooth and comforting. He thought of Saria, the great Deku tree, and the dark shadows that lay ahead. Though the path was uncertain, one truth was clear: Hyrule needed a hero. and the silent boy from Kokori's forest was ready to answer the call. Chapter 4: Meeting a Princess. The towering walls of Hyrule Castle loomed in the dusk, their cold stone bathed in the last light of day. Link approached cautiously, the weight of his quest pressing upon his shoulders like the heavy air before a storm. The guards patrolling the castle's outer courtyards were sharp-eyed and vigilant. Their armor gleamed under the fading sun, and their footsteps echoed with authority. To approach openly would be folly. Link's only option was stealth. Silently, Link slipped between the shadows of archways and stone pillars. He crouched low, muscles tense and senses alert, timing each movement to avoid the soldiers' sweeping lantern beams. His green tunic blended with the creeping twilight, and the quiet forest boy became a ghost in the castle's labyrinth. Every narrow corridor and grand hall was a test of patience and resolve. The scent of polished wood and distant torchlight filled the air as Link moved deeper toward the heart of the castle. At last, he arrived in the castle's private chambers, where the royal light fell softly through stained glass windows. There, standing with a calm grace that belied her youth, was Princess Zelda herself. Her eyes, sharp and wise beyond her years, met Link's without hesitation. "You must be the one the great Deku tree spoke of," she said quietly. "Hyrule depends on you, Link. Ganondorf's shadow grows darker each day." Though Link said nothing, his earnest gaze conveyed his readiness. "I have seen your courage," Zelda continued, "but you must be careful. The evil that threatens this land watches all corners. We cannot let him know we are united." Before Link could respond, a faint noise echoed in the hall, footsteps of approaching guards. Suddenly, the chamber door burst open, and from the shadows stepped Impa, Zelda's loyal guardian. Her eyes were sharp and commanding. "There is no time to waste," she said sternly. "Come with me now." Guided by Impa's swift movements and knowledge of hidden passages, Link slipped through secret doors and twisting corridors, narrowly evading capture. Outside the castle walls, the night was cool and filled with distant sounds of the restless kingdom. Impa's words echoed in Link's mind. "Ganondorf seeks the sacred stones. We must reach Death Mountain before it's too late." The path ahead was treacherous and urgent. Passing through Kakariko village, Link caught only a fleeting glimpse of its quiet homes and cobblestone streets. There was no time to linger. The village's peace was a fragile thing he would return to later. His footsteps quickened, following the winding trails leading into the shadowed foothills of Death Mountain. The air grew thick with heat and the scent of sulfur as Link neared the mountain's base. Jagged rocks and steaming vents marked the terrain as the land itself seemed to pulse with volcanic fury. Here dwelled the Gorons, giant rock-skinned beings known for their strength and resilience. Link was wary but determined. The Gorons were known to be proud and wary of outsiders, yet the fate of Hyrule depended on their alliance. At the mouth of a vast cavern, Dodongo's Cavern, Link encountered the Goron leader, a towering figure named Darunia. His voice rumbled like distant thunder. "What brings a forest boy to the fires of Death Mountain?" Link's silent presence, combined with the urgency in his eyes and the sacred relics he carried, spoke volumes. Darunia's expression softened. "If you seek to stop Ganondorf, then you will face the beast that dwells within the cavern." Dodongo's cavern yawned before Link like the maw of some ancient beast. Its walls were jagged and blackened by fire, the air thick with heat and danger. Within, giant Dodongos, massive dinosaur-like creatures, lurked, guarding the way forward. This dungeon would test Link's courage and skill, demanding both cleverness and bravery. Link prepared himself, gripping his sword and shield tightly. The journey was far from over, but every step brought him closer to saving Hyrule. The echoes of his footsteps were swallowed by the cavern's darkness as the silent hero stepped into the unknown. Chapter 5: Fire and Brotherhood. The roar of magma echoed through the yawning darkness as Link stepped across the threshold of Dodongo's cavern. The air was thick with sulfur and smoke. The oppressive heat beat down on his skin, and the floor trembled faintly with the movement of creatures within. This was no ordinary cave. It was ancient and sacred to the Goron people, once a place of tradition and ritual. But now it had become a prison for monsters, twisted by Ganondorf's influence. The king of the Gerudo, in his hunger for power, had blocked off the Goron's food supply by awakening the beasts within and threatening the tribe with starvation unless they relinquished the Goron's ruby. They had refused, and they had suffered. Now, it was up to Link to face the evil in their stead. The cavern twisted and turned like the belly of some great beast. Gouts of flame burst from the floor and walls, pathways crumbled beneath Link's feet, and heavy stone blocks shifted like puzzle pieces requiring clever timing and quick movement. Fire keys, bats engulfed in flame, fluttered above in screeching spirals while Beamos, ancient watchful machines, swept magical beams across the ground, vaporizing anything that crossed their paths. Dodging and deflecting, Link pressed deeper into the mountain's heart, solving mechanisms left behind by ancient Goron engineers, timing his use of bomb flowers to destroy crumbling walls, open sealed doors, and activate massive stone lifts. The deeper he ventured, the louder the rumble in the earth became. Something ancient was stirring below. At the bottom of the cavern, Link stood before an immense circular chamber. The ground was blackened glass from years of searing heat, and lava surged beneath iron grates. The air pulsed with malevolent energy. From the shadows, a roar thundered, a sound that shook the stones loose from the ceiling. King Dodongo, the ancient reptilian lord of the mountain, emerged from a smoking tunnel. Its armored body was the size of a house, its mouth a blazing furnace. Its eyes locked onto Link, hungry, hateful, primal. The battle was brutal. King Dodongo lumbered forward with every intention of crushing Link beneath its massive claws. But Link was quick. Using bomb flowers scattered around the arena, he baited the beast, throwing bombs into its open mouth mid-roar. Each explosion rocked its skull, sending it reeling. Then, with timing precise as clockwork, Link leapt in and struck with his blade. The final blast sent King Dodongo crashing into the lava below, its body swallowed in molten flame. The mountain shuddered. The chamber lit up with a final flash. It was done. When Link returned to the surface, weary but victorious, he was met with joyous celebration. Darunia, chief of the Gorons, awaited him at the entrance to their city, arms crossed and beaming with pride. His gruff demeanor was gone, replaced by something softer, genuine respect. "Brother," Darunia bellowed, clapping a massive hand on Link's shoulder with enough force to nearly knock him down. "You risked your life for my people. You freed our home from the monsters. From this day forward, you are my sworn brother." He reached into a heavy satchel and drew forth the Goron's ruby, a perfectly cut, crimson gem that shimmered with inner fire. It was the spiritual stone of fire, one of the 3 keys to the sacred realm. "Take it. You've earned it," Darunia said solemnly. "But know this, Ganondorf will not stop here. Evil will spread like wildfire if you don't act swiftly." Link accepted the stone in silence, holding it up to the light. The second piece of the ancient puzzle was now his. Darunia chuckled, his voice echoing off the cliffs. "We Gorons don't take Brotherhood lightly. One day, I'll teach you our secret handshake. But first, go. I can tell your path leads beyond the mountain." As the Gorons celebrated with rolling dances and booming song, Link turned back toward the trail leading to Zora's domain, where the final spiritual stone, the Zora's sapphire, was said to rest. The wind blew hot behind him and cool ahead. He pressed onward. Chapter 6 of Refuge, Rivers, and Rolling Fields. As the crimson light of sunset bathed the slopes of Death Mountain, Link descended the winding trail toward Kakariko Village, weary from the heat and fire of Dodongo's cavern. The village lay nestled in a bowl of low hills and old stone paths, ringed by wooden fences and watched over by the silent, looming graveyard to the east. A windmill turned slowly in the breeze, its blades creaking rhythmically, soothing in the stillness of early evening. Kakariko was simple, humble, and safe. The villagers, mostly Sheikah descendants under the protection of the royal family, welcomed Link kindly, offering food and a cot in an empty stable near the Kuko pen. Their faces were marked by quiet lives, but their eyes held respect for the young traveler bearing a Kokori's blade and the look of silent purpose. Link wandered the village before resting, exploring its modest shops and back alleys. He spoke to no one, yet they remembered him. From the bazaar, he purchased additional bombs, a new Deku shield to replace his scorched one, and recovery items offered by a mysterious masked merchant who muttered cryptic phrases under his breath. A small boy warned Link not to wander into the graveyard at night, whispering tales of the royal composer brothers, restless spirits that haunted the crypts beneath. Link silently took note. As twilight deepened, the fires in the hearths flickered to life. Link rested on a bed of straw under the stars. For the first time in many nights, his dreams were still. At dawn, Link rose early and departed. The golden fields of Hyrule stretched wide before him, the distant mountains at his back, and the shimmer of rivers and plains on the horizon. He passed beneath the stone gate that marked the edge of Kakariko and followed a well-worn road that bent westward toward Lon Lon Ranch. The sound of birdsong and the rustling grass accompanied him. Though the land seemed peaceful, he felt the tension below the surface. Ganondorf's influence crept slowly across the kingdom. The spiritual stones were the key to stopping it. He carried two. Only one remained. In the heart of Hyrule's rolling pastures sat Lon Lon Ranch, a ring of white fencing around soft grass and proud stables. The scent of hay and the sound of neighing horses greeted Link as he stepped into the corral. There he met Malon, a red-haired farm girl with a voice as clear as the sky and a song always on her lips. She noticed him right away and smiled. "You must be a traveler," she said. "You've got that look in your eyes. Not lost, but going somewhere important." Link nodded slightly. Malon led him to the fence, where a small chestnut filly trotted toward them. Epona, wild and untamed but curious. "She's shy around strangers," Malon said, "but I sing to her every day. It helps calm her." She sang a soft, lilting melody, Epona's song, and the filly perked up immediately, cantering toward them and nudging Malon's shoulder. Link listened, committing the tune to memory as he often did with melodies that held power. Inside the farmhouse, Link met Talon, Malon's jovial, sleepy father, who offered him milk and tales of simpler times. The ranch, though peaceful, felt like an island in a sea of gathering shadows. Before he left, Malon handed Link a bottle of Lon Lon milk, smiling warmly. "Come back one day," she said. "When your journey's over, Epona will be waiting." From the ranch, Link continued east and then north, where the road dwindled into a wild, winding path along Zora's River. Trees grew thick around the banks, and the sound of rushing water drowned all else. The path was narrow, often blocked by fallen logs and boulders. Link climbed and leapt, using bombs to clear away obstacles. Mischievous Octorok spat stones from the water's edge, and buzzing Tektites leapt from the shallows to ambush him. Higher up, he met an odd, cheerful man seated under a tree playing a strange flute-like instrument. He swayed back and forth, eyes closed. "If you've got a good tune in your heart, the river might just part for you," the man said cryptically. Link raised the ocarina and played Malon's song. Though nothing changed immediately, the music gave him strength. At last, he reached a great waterfall, cascading down the mountain face with thundering force. A stone plaque near the base bore an inscription, "Play the song of the royal family, and the water shall reveal the path." Link thought back to his meeting with Princess Zelda. She had hummed a soft tune while speaking of destiny. He raised the ocarina once more and played Zelda's lullaby, a tune old as the Sheikah themselves. The waterfall shimmered, pulsed, and then parted down the middle, revealing a hidden cave behind. Without hesitation, Link stepped forward into the heart of Zora's domain. The inside was like nothing he had seen, a majestic cavern carved of ice-blue stone, illuminated by glowing torches and glistening pools. Bridges of polished crystal arched over running streams, and the soft murmur of water echoed off high ceilings. The Zora, graceful aquatic beings with pale blue skin and long fins, glided through the waters and along the polished floors with elegance. Link had entered their realm in peace, but not without purpose. The final spiritual stone awaited. Chapter 7: The Crystal Sanctuary. Zora's domain was a tranquil place, peaceful, pristine, almost untouched by the creeping darkness beyond. The sound of flowing water echoed through its caverns like a lullaby, the air cool and refreshing. Gentle light filtered through translucent stone, casting rippling reflections across smooth floors. Fish darted through crystalline pools, and waterfalls cascaded from heights above into sacred springs. Link, ever silent, stood at the edge of the central chamber and observed the regal figure upon the throne. King Zora the 16th, rotund and solemn, sat like a great boulder atop his platform. His eyes, though half-lidded and tired, studied Link with a flicker of curiosity. A Kokoro child come to Zora's domain? Rare indeed, the king rumbled. What business do you have with the Zora? Link offered the royal family's letter, entrusted to him by Princess Zelda. The seal glittered in the soft light. King Zora leaned forward, agonizingly slowly, and examined it. This is from Princess Zelda herself, he said, his eyes narrowing. It speaks of evil gathering in Hyrule, and it mentions Ruto. A ripple of concern passed across his massive face. My daughter, Princess Ruto, has gone missing. Days ago she entered the chamber of Lord Jabu Jabu and has not returned. We have done nothing, for Jabu Jabu is our guardian deity. We dare not interfere with his will. He shifted slowly to the side, painfully, ponderously, revealing a winding passageway. Go to the shrine at the back of our domain, he said gravely. There you will find Jabu Jabu. If you truly wish to help, perhaps he will allow you passage. Take this, he gestured, and a young attendant handed Link a silver fish, its gills fluttering. Ruto's favorite food, perhaps it will stir our Lord's attention. Link nodded in silent understanding. Link walked the narrow, icy path to Zora's fountain, a moonlit lake nestled in a ring of stone and glacier. Mist drifted above the water's surface, and at its heart rested Lord Jabu Jabu, an enormous whale-like creature with deep, ancient eyes and a noble stillness. The great fish floated in silence, unmoving, mouth closed, as if meditating. Link stepped forward and gently released the fish from his arms. It fluttered toward the water's edge, and in a sudden, titanic motion, Jabu Jabu inhaled. The water surged forward, pulling Link with it, and everything vanished in a blinding rush. When Link opened his eyes, he was inside. The walls around him pulsed and throbbed with organic life. The air was moist, the ground slick with mucus and membrane. Giant tentacles writhed in the distance. Parasitic enemies clung to the walls, twitching and skittering. The dungeon was alive. Strange switches reacted to electrical impulses. Pulsing sacs opened pathways when struck. Link quickly realized this place had become infected. Jabu Jabu was not merely a dungeon, but a being in pain. He pressed deeper, guided by instinct, until he found her. Princess Ruto stood in a wide chamber, arms crossed, her demeanor calm but unmistakably annoyed. You, she said. You're the one my father sent, aren't you? Figures. I don't need help. I'm perfectly capable of handling this myself. Link blinked. Ruto gave him a long, judging look. Well, since you're here, she huffed, you can carry me. To Link's surprise, she climbed into his arms without hesitation, treating the arrangement like a royal decree. Navigating Jabu Jabu's insides with Ruto was no easy task. Link carried her across shifting platforms, over pits of mucus and bile, dodging stingers, shaboms, and tentacled growths. Ugh, this place is disgusting, Ruto muttered. And I dropped something very important in here, my mother's stone. The Zora's sapphire. Link's eyes widened. The final spiritual stone. Their journey led them to the central chamber, where massive tentacles blocked the way forward. Link severed each grotesque appendage by striking their roots deep within Jabu Jabu's inner chambers. Using the boomerang he found earlier, a tool of precision and balance. At last, with the barriers destroyed, they arrived at the final chamber. There, they found the cause of the infection. Baronade, a grotesque, jellyfish-like monstrosity fused to the ceiling, pulsed with electricity and malice. Sparks crackled across its hide as it lowered itself to attack, rotating in a deadly ring of tendrils and lightning. Link fought with desperate speed. He struck with the boomerang to sever its connections. He dodged arcs of electrical fire. When it crashed to the floor, he unleashed a flurry of sword strikes. Again and again, until at last Baronade shrieked in agony and burst into light and smoke. The chamber fell silent. Outside, in the cool air of Zora's fountain, Ruto stood beside Link and placed something in his hands. A radiant sapphire, blue as the deepest sea. This is the Zora's sapphire, our most precious treasure, she said solemnly. It is a sacred stone passed down by the Zora royal family, and now I'm giving it to you. She stepped closer, smiling mischievously. You're my fiancé now, you know. That's what it means when a Zora gives their stone to someone. Link blinked. Ruto giggled and turned away. Don't forget it. He looked down at the stone. The third and final spiritual stone. The time had come. The gates to the sacred realm could now be opened. But what awaited beyond? Chapter 8, The Door of Time. The skies above Hyrule boiled with storm clouds. Lightning cracked over Hyrule Castle town as Link raced through the gates, clutching the third spiritual stone to his chest. The Zora's Sapphire, last of the sacred trio, pulsed with energy. The Goron's Ruby and Kokiri's Emerald hung in pouches at his belt. The gate guards had fled. Market stalls were abandoned. The stone streets echoed with thunder. As Link entered the courtyard, a piercing neigh split the air. He turned in time to see a horse galloping toward him, Impa astride its back, with Princess Zelda clinging tightly behind. Her golden hair streamed in the wind. As they passed, Zelda's eyes met Link's, filled with urgency and sorrow. With sudden grace, she flung something through the air. It sparkled in the stormlight and landed at Link's feet with a soft chime, a small, mystical ocarina, glowing faintly blue. Before he could react, the ground shook again. A second horse burst through the gate, black as obsidian, its rider cloaked in armor and shadow, Ganondorf. He reined in hard, eyes like burning coals locked on Link. "You! There you are!" Link stepped forward silently, blade drawn. Ganondorf chuckled. "So, you want to protect the princess from me? What a pitiful little fool. You think you can stand against me with that tiny sword?" Power crackled around him. Link held firm. Ganondorf's laughter turned to contempt. "You have no idea what you're dealing with." With a sweep of his hand, dark energy slammed into Link, hurling him backwards. As the Dark Lord rode off, the storm surged anew. But the ocarina was safe in Link's grasp. As the storm abated, Link examined the ocarina. It was the Ocarina of Time, a sacred artifact of royal lineage. Zelda had entrusted it to him. That night, in the quiet of Hyrule Castle courtyard, he played the melody she had once hummed beneath the castle's windows. As his fingers moved across the instrument, a voice rang in his mind. Zelda's voice. "Link, play this melody in front of the altar in the Temple of Time. It is the key that opens the door of time." Link gently tucked away Saria's ocarina, wrapping it in silk and placing it within his satchel. It still held her farewell, still echoed with the forest's memory. But a greater purpose now called. He turned toward the temple. The Temple of Time stood silent and solemn at the edge of Castle Town, its white marble arches towering like fingers toward the heavens. Inside, the vast chamber echoed with sacred quiet. At its heart stood the altar of time, marked with 3 golden crests, one for each spiritual stone. Above it, the door of time loomed, a sealed gateway etched with the Triforce symbol and ancient runes. Link approached the altar. He placed the Kokiri's Emerald, the Goron's Ruby, and the Zora's Sapphire into the sockets carved into the stone. Each jewel shimmered with elemental energy, earth, fire, water, aligning in perfect harmony. Then he stepped back and raised the Ocarina of Time to his lips. He played the Song of Time. The notes echoed like a prayer through the chamber. The altar trembled. Light gathered. Stone groaned and split. The door of time slowly opened with a divine hum, revealing a hidden chamber beyond. And there, bathed in sacred light, stood a pedestal. Upon it rested a blade of legend. The Master Sword, the blade of evil's bane, waited in stillness. Its hilt shone blue and gold, its blade gleamed with ancient runes. A legend reborn. Link stepped forward, guided by fate more than choice. He gripped the hilt with both hands and pulled. Light burst from the pedestal. The world spun. 1,000 voices whispered across time. The chamber vanished in a surge of magic, and then stillness. When Link opened his eyes, he was no longer in the temple. He stood within the Chamber of Sages, a radiant void suspended in stars and song. Columns of light rose into the endless sky. In the center, the Master Sword remained at his side, yet something felt different. Before him stood a man in robes, white-bearded and kind-eyed, Rauru, Sage of Light. "Welcome, Hero of Time," Rauru said. "You have drawn the Master Sword, and in doing so, you have opened the gate to the sacred realm. But it is not as we hoped." He paused. "The sword sealed your spirit in slumber for 7 years, for your body was not yet ready to bear the burden. While you slept, the evil you sought to prevent has already come to pass." Link stepped forward, silent, stunned. Ganondorf entered the sacred realm. He has claimed the Triforce of Power, and now reigns as King of Evil over a ruined Hyrule. Rauru's voice softened. "But hope is not lost. The time has come for you to awaken fully as the Hero of Time, and to find the other sages who will help seal Ganondorf's evil away forever." He raised a hand. Step back into the world, hero. The age of legends has begun anew. Light engulfed Link. When it faded, he stood once more in the Temple of Time, the Master Sword still in hand. But he was changed, taller, older, his voice still silent, but his presence stronger. The child was gone. The man had awoken. A faint sound reached him, a footfall behind him. From the shadows stepped a figure clad in blue and white, face hidden behind a veil, eyes sharp as knives. The symbol of the Sheikah glowed on their chest. "The flow of time is always cruel," the figure said. Link turned. "But you have awakened at last, hero of time. The journey ahead will be harder than anything you have faced before." They paused. "My name is Sheik. I have been waiting for you." Link narrowed his eyes. They stepped outside. The wind howled fiercely, and all that could be seen of the green and lush world Link had come to love was now darkness and pain. Even Link was not ready for this world, and for what would come next. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, a fan retelling, Part 2, The Elemental Trials, Chapter 9, The Forest Lost to Time. The Temple of Time stood quiet, solemn in its ancient grace. Shafts of ethereal light filtered through the high stained glass windows, painting the marble floor in the sacred hues of the three goddesses. Upon the pedestal once again rested the Master Sword, but Link no longer stood before it as a boy. His hands, once small and unsteady, now gripped the hilt of a blade forged for a warrior. He was taller, older, a young man forged by fate itself. As he took his first steps forward, the clinking of his boots echoed through the temple like the ringing of a bell, announcing the return of a long-awaited hero. Outside, the world had changed. The air was colder, the sky dimmer. The streets of Castle Town were abandoned, choked by decay. Where laughter once rang out from market stalls and children ran through cobblestone alleys, now only silence and the low, guttural moans of the dead remained. Link moved quickly through the ruins, avoiding the grasping hands of the re-deads that wandered aimlessly in the shadows, their anguished wails chilling the blood. He passed under the broken portcullis and over the ruined bridge leading to Hyrule Field. The open plains were now a realm of wandering monsters. Poes drifted like wraiths, skeletal stall children clawed their way from the earth each twilight, and the sky itself seemed darker, less forgiving. Link reached Kakariko Village as the sun dipped behind Death Mountain, casting long shadows over the rooftops. The once peaceful village bore the scars of recent panic. Villagers eyed him with cautious curiosity, whispering of strange noises from the well and the shadow that had once escaped from the sealed tomb. Among the murmurs, one tale persisted: the ghost of Dampy, the old gravekeeper, now haunting the village graveyard. That night, under a pale moon, Link made his way to the graveyard. The wind was still, the silence broken only by the occasional creak of an old sign or the rustling of dead leaves. Dampy's tomb, previously unmarked, now glowed faintly with an otherworldly light. As Link approached, a ghostly figure emerged, hunched and familiar. "Heh. What took you so long? You want to race an old ghost?" Dampy's voice had the same scratchy, amused tone it held in life. Without waiting for a response, the ghost vanished through the crypt door, beckoning Link to follow. Inside, Link ran through narrow catacombs, dodging flame traps and leaping over broken bridges as Dampy's specter floated ahead, laughing all the while. At the end of the winding chase, the ghost waited by a chest. "Not bad, kid. Grown up. Here's a little reward for your trouble." From the chest, Link claimed the hookshot, its chain gleaming faintly in the darkness. This tool would prove invaluable in places where reach and agility were once limited by youth. With the ghost of Dampy finally at peace, Link left the crypt and stepped back into the fresh air of early morning. He could linger no longer, his heart pulled him eastward toward the woods. The path to the Kokiri forest was quiet, almost too quiet. Trees leaned over the road as if in mourning, their leaves hanging limp. Where once cheerful Kokiri would run up to greet him, now there was only emptiness. Link stepped through the hollow tree arch into the forest of his childhood, and found it changed. The air was heavier. A strange fog crept low to the ground. Kokiri village was eerily deserted, its huts dark and lifeless. No children played, no songs were sung. The once vibrant forest had become a haunted place. From the shadows emerged creatures that did not belong. Deku babas with blackened stalks, skulltulas that hung from trees like rotting fruit, and moblins prowling like wolves. Link fought through them grimly, dispatching each with the precision his new strength afforded him. Fado, one of the few remaining Kokiri brave enough to remain visible, approached him cautiously. Her eyes widened with recognition, though confusion etched her features. "Is that you, Link? The forest, it's been cursed ever since you left. Saria went to the temple deep in the woods, but she hasn't returned. We're scared. Everything's wrong." Link nodded silently. The time had come to return to the Lost Woods. The entrance was the same, winding passages, thick with trees and riddles of sound. But now, the paths were darker, the tunes distorted. Skull kids danced cruelly through the clearings, their once playful melodies twisted. Link had to fight his way through the heart of the maze, using his ocarina to guide his steps when all other logic failed. Eventually, the woods opened into a strange place, a hedge maze ringed with stone walls and spiked gates. Moblins patrolled its corridors, their heavy steps thudding against the grass. Link crept through the maze, striking swiftly and silently. At the center stood a ruined temple, stone and ivy intertwined like the forest reclaiming its secrets. The doors were high and sealed, unreachable by normal means, but a withered tree stretched one of its limbs over the chasm leading to the entrance. With his hookshot, Link latched onto the tree's branch. The device extended with a sharp metallic sound, yanking him across the gap. He landed before the great door of the forest temple. The heavy wood groaned as he pushed them open. The forest temple awaited. Chapter 10, Phantom Within. The doors of the forest temple groaned shut behind Link, sealing him within its ancient, vine-choked halls. A chill passed through the air, carrying with it whispers that belonged to no living voice. This was no place of sanctuary. It was a prison of twisted roots and restless spirits. Moss crept across the stonework. Vines hung like curtains over cracked archways. The scent of damp earth mingled with the scent of old decay. The very walls seemed alive with a presence, watching, waiting. Link stepped forward cautiously, his hand never far from the hilt of his blade. The central hall revealed a great room crowned with a spiraling staircase and an ornate elevator platform that had long since seized in place. 4 torch pedestals surrounded it, each extinguished, each bearing a faint sigil. As he approached, laughter echoed from above. High along the columns, 4 ghostly figures emerged from the shadows, draped in tatters, faces hidden beneath hoods. The Poe sisters, Joelle, Beth, Amy, and Meg. With maniacal giggles, the spirits vanished, scattering throughout the temple. The flames from the torches followed them, plunging the central hall into eerie gloom. The way forward was barred. Link's quest within the temple was clear. Reclaim the stolen flames and restore the light to the central hall. His journey led him into twisting corridors where walls shifted unexpectedly and stairways defied gravity. Skulltulas clung to ceilings and walls, their armored hides impervious to all but precise strikes. Floormasters skittered in the shadows, seeking to drag intruders into the void. Each room was a test of wit and combat, puzzles of moving blocks, timed switches, and mirrored reflections guarded by twisted monsters. One by one, the Poe sisters revealed themselves. Joelle in the west wing wielded fire and vanished into paintings. Link pursued her through an endless gallery, drawing her into battle with timed arrows that dispelled her illusions. Beth, found lurking near a twisted library, used telekinesis to hurl books and debris. Link danced between flying objects, catching her with swift slashes of his blade. Amy tested Link's patience in a room of statues, where he had to align each effigy in a precise pattern before she would manifest. Meg, the trickiest, multiplied herself into 4 indistinguishable forms. Only through careful observation of her movements did Link determine the real specter and banish her with precision. With each sister defeated, a flame rekindled on the central pedestals. At last, the great elevator descended with a groan of stone on metal, revealing a staircase spiraling down into the heart of the temple. The final chamber was vast, circular, and ringed with towering pillars. A massive painting adorned the far wall, a foreboding image of a dark forest path. As Link stepped closer, the painting shimmered, and from it emerged a rider clad in armor, astride a skeletal horse, Phantom Ganon. The ghostly rider charged, retreating back into the painting only to emerge from another. Link stood his ground, bow in hand, scanning the walls. When the phantom reappeared, he loosed arrows, dispelling the illusionary copies and striking the true foe. After several volleys, Phantom Ganon was expelled from the paintings. Hovering above the arena, he hurled balls of dark magic. Link reflected them back with the Master Sword in a deadly game of light and shadow, his timing precise, his stance steady. A final return strike shattered the Phantom's form. It screamed, dissolving in a cloud of cursed energy. Yet even in its defeat, it mocked him. Very impressive, but that was just a phantom. The real Ganondorf is far more powerful. The darkness faded. In its place, a beam of emerald light descended from the ceiling, lifting Link from the temple floor. He found himself once more in the Chamber of the Sages. The stone dais beneath his feet bore the symbol of the forest. Light coalesced in the center, taking the shape of a familiar figure, Saria. Her green hair and kind eyes had not changed, though her presence now radiated power and calm. A sage of the forest. "Link, thank you," she said softly, a smile touching her lips. "Because of you, I've awakened as one of the sages. I always believed in you. Even after you left the forest, I waited, knowing you'd return." Link stepped forward, silent as ever, though his heart was filled with both sorrow and pride. Saria continued, her voice tinged with sadness. "We can't be together like we used to, but I will always be your friend. And now I will aid you as one of the 6 sages who must stand against the evil king." She raised her hands, and from them formed the forest medallion, a green gem surrounded by sacred runes. It floated toward Link, bathing him in the light of her blessing. "Please, find the others. Bring balance back to Hyrule." Link nodded once. The light faded. He stood once more before the forest temple, the trees whispering their approval. The curse had lifted. Link stepped back into the heart of Kokiri Forest. The changes were already taking root. The air, once heavy with gloom, now carried the scent of dew and bark. The oppressive fog that had clung to the village like a curse was gone, replaced by shafts of light that filtered through the canopy above. Children peered from their homes cautiously, their wide eyes reflecting both awe and confusion. Though they did not recognize the armored figure that stood before them, something in Link's presence stirred familiarity. Mito stood furthest back, arms crossed, but his defiance had softened. The great Deku tree's hollow stump loomed as it always had, lifeless, cracked. But then the earth trembled gently beneath Link's boots. From the mossy soil near the fallen guardian's remains, a bud sprouted, and then it spoke. "Hi there! I'm the Deku tree sprout." Link blinked in astonishment, taking a step back as the tiny sapling wiggled with joy. "Because you and Saria broke the curse on the forest temple, I can grow and flourish. Thanks a lot." The Kokiri gasped, gathering around the stump with hushed voices. The Deku tree sprout's bark was smooth and golden green, its leaves vibrant with life. Though small, its presence radiated warmth and wisdom. "Oh, and there's something important I must tell you." The sapling paused, tilting its leafy top toward Link. "You're not a Kokiri, Link. You're actually a Hylian. I know it must be surprising, but it's true. The great Deku tree knew all along." Gasps rose from the gathered children. "When you were just a baby, during the Great War, your mother fled with you and left you here under the protection of the forest. She was gravely wounded and didn't survive. The great Deku tree took you in and raised you as one of the Kokiri to keep you safe." Link looked down, hands tightening at his sides. The truth did not wound, it clarified. So many things made sense now. Why he had never aged among the Kokiri, why he had been chosen by destiny to leave the forest. The Deku tree sprout nodded, his voice gentle. "You were meant for something greater, Link, and though you were not born here, you will always be part of this forest." Mito looked away, swallowing hard. "So, that's why he could leave." Link met his eyes. No words were needed, just understanding. As the Kokiri dispersed, their whispers shifting from fear to wonder, Link knelt briefly before the sprout. He touched the soil gently, an unspoken promise to return. The forest was healing. But the flames of Death Mountain glowed in the horizon. Link rose, turning his gaze eastward. Chapter 11, The Path of Flame. The grasslands of Hyrule Field stretched wide beneath the golden dusk, the gentle sway of the plains masking the encroaching darkness that crept ever outward from the ruined castle. Yet, for the first time in many days, Link let his gaze linger on the horizon. not for danger, but for peace. He veered off the main path, following a winding trail that led through rolling hills and toward the heart of the plains. Nestled in a quiet valley stood Lon Lon Ranch, its white wooden fence and windmill casting long shadows over the sun-drenched earth. For a moment, it felt as though time had spared this place. Talon's snores echoed from the barn as loud as ever, while Malin tended to the horses. Her voice rang through the air as she sang an old lullaby, one that echoed with memory and longing. As Link approached, Malin turned, her expression lighting up with recognition. "It's you! You're the fairy boy from the forest," she said. "You've grown so much, but I'd know you anywhere." Behind her stood Epona, the young mare Link had once bonded with as a child. Now grown, she stood proud and strong, her auburn mane whipping in the wind. "She remembers you too. Go on, try to call her," Malin encouraged. Link pulled out the Ocarina of Time, and for a moment hesitated. Then he switched to the smaller, worn ocarina given to him by Saria and played the familiar tune Malin had taught him long ago. The melody drifted through the air, and Epona neighed joyfully, galloping to his side. The bond between them was instant, as though no time had passed. "If you want to ride her, you'll need to prove yourself. Ingo's taken over the ranch, and he's not exactly friendly." Link entered the corral, where Ingo, now sporting Ganondorf's crest on his clothes, sneered from atop a fence post. "You think you can just waltz in here and ride the best horse on my ranch? Heh. Fine, I'll let you race, if you've got the rupees." The first race was tight, but Link learned Epona's rhythm quickly. On the second go, they raced like wind itself. Furious, Ingo locked the gate, vowing Link would never leave with the horse. But he underestimated Epona. With a mighty leap, Link and Epona soared over the fence and vanished into the night, the warm lights of the ranch fading behind them. By early morning, Link returned to Kakariko Village. The village bustled in the cool dawn air. Carpenters worked, chickens scattered, and villagers eyed him with respect and curiosity. He visited the bazaar to stock up on arrows and potions, and spent a quiet moment at the graveyard, pausing before the resting place of those he had known in life and spirit. The time had come. Climbing the steep, winding trail of Death Mountain, Link felt the temperature rise with each step. Boulders rumbled down the cliffs, remnants of some recent seismic disturbance. As he approached Goron City, he expected the usual cheerful hum of their rocky civilization, but silence greeted him. The great spiral cave lay deserted, its winding ramps devoid of life. Only a single Goron could be found, rolling around in a tight circle of rage and panic. Link stopped him with a well-placed bomb, and the young Goron uncurled. "Ow! What the hey? You're not one of Ganondorf's guys. You kind of look like me." The young Goron introduced himself as Link, named after the hero who had once saved their people. His words came in a rush. "Everyone's gone. Ganondorf sent a dragon, Volvagia. My dad, Darunia, went to the fire temple to fight it alone. He told me to stay here, but I'm scared." Moved by the child's courage, Link promised to save Darunia and the others. As a token of trust, young Link gave him a tunic crafted by the Gorons themselves. Red as flame, enchanted to withstand the unbearable heat of the volcano. Donning the Goron tunic, Link stepped through the sealed chamber at the top of the city and into the very heart of the mountain. The Death Mountain crater greeted him with roaring heat and trembling earth. Rivers of magma pulsed beneath cracked rock. The summit had split open with violent force, and across a narrow wooden bridge loomed a scorched doorway framed by flame. Beyond it lay the Fire Temple, a prison of stone and heat, where Darunia's fate, and that of all Gorons, awaited. Link gripped the Master Sword tightly, the air shimmering around him, and he stepped inside. Chapter 12, Dragonfire. The oppressive heat of the Fire Temple closed around Link the moment he stepped through its scorched threshold. The air shimmered with rising waves of heat, and red light flickered across the blackened stone like the heartbeat of a slumbering volcano. Far below, rivers of lava flowed through massive crevices, casting a pulsing glow across the temple's cavernous underbelly. The grinding of chains echoed in the distance, along with the distant groan of ancient, fire-powered machinery long forgotten by time. But the most haunting sound of all came from behind thick iron bars, the low, mournful voices of imprisoned Gorons. Ganondorf had seized the fire temple and used it as a prison, sealing Darunia's people into cramped stone cells to break their spirit and deter resistance. Each cell was locked tight, sealed by enchanted doors that required hidden keys to open. The Gorons, warriors born of stone and fire, were reduced to helpless captives, waiting in darkness. As Link ventured deeper, he made it his mission to free them. In each cell he unlocked, a grateful Goron greeted him, not only with thanks, but with crucial information passed along in hushed tones. "Please, save my brother Darunia. He went ahead alone. There's a hidden switch behind that flaming wall. Use your bombs wisely. Take this key. You'll need it to reach the inner chambers." The temple was a labyrinth of blistering corridors and hellish architecture. Lava bubbled beneath cracked walkways, and flame jets burst suddenly from the floor and walls. Narrow platforms swayed over magma pits, and crumbling bridges tested Link's timing and nerve. The Goron tunic shielded him from the deadly heat, but it did nothing to ease the pressure of constant danger. Monsters bred in flame stalked the temple's corridors, torch slugs that left searing trails across the ground, flaring in bursts of heat when threatened. Fire geese dove from the ceilings like living embers, igniting anything they touched. In wide chambers, flare dancers twirled and taunted, their fiery forms forcing Link to dodge and strike with perfect precision. He fought with calculated grit, switching between tools as the temple demanded. Hookshot for distant levers, bombs for brittle walls, and the fairy bow to pierce faraway switches and firebound foes. At the temple's heart, past a collapsing stone walkway suspended above a lake of molten rock, Link discovered a sealed chamber ringed with carvings of ancient Goron heroes. Within lay the temple's most sacred relic, the Megaton Hammer. Forged by Goron blacksmiths in ages past, it had been hidden here to await a warrior strong enough to wield it. It took all of Link's strength to lift it, but once he did, the temple answered. With the hammer, Link shattered rusted columns, pounded stubborn switches, and broke open stone barriers that had blocked his path. Each slam of the hammer echoed like a drumbeat of war, clearing the way toward the temple's final depths. In the deepest chamber, Link found the signs of battle, but no Darunia. Scorch marks blackened the walls, great claw marks rent the stone. A final iron gate led into a vast, circular arena built above a churning pit of lava. Silence hung heavy, the air so thick with heat it was hard to breathe. Then, the lava stirred. With a violent eruption, a monstrous shape burst forth, scales gleaming like molten metal, eyes glowing with ancient fury. Volvagia, the fire dragon, roared into the chamber, its serpent-like body weaving through the air with terrifying grace. Its jaws opened, releasing a stream of searing flame as it dove and vanished once more into the lava. The battle began. Volvagia struck from the shadows, leaping from the magma through scattered holes in the platform. Link had to predict its movements, dodging deadly fireballs from above and hammering its exposed skull as it lunged forth. With each blow, the dragon howled and retreated, its fury growing more violent. Lava spurted from the ground, burning rocks fell from the ceiling. A wrong step meant falling into the abyss. Link endured, lungs burning, eyes stinging from heat and smoke. He stood firm, his strikes unrelenting. When the dragon coiled above him, flames spewing in all directions, he raised the Megaton hammer and brought it down with a cry of defiance. The impact cracked the platform. Volvagia screamed, an unholy sound that shook the very foundations of the mountain, and then it fell, its body crumbling into cinders before vanishing beneath the molten waves. The fire was gone, the curse lifted. A great wind stirred in the chamber, and a green light bloomed overhead. A shimmering portal opened in the air, lifting Link upward, his work in the temple complete. He emerged in the chamber of the sages once more. From the light stepped Darunia, calm now, a proud fire burning in his eyes. His stone-gray skin shimmered with spiritual energy. "Brother," he said, voice thick with emotion, "you've done what even I could not. You've saved my people and honored the bond we share." He raised his mighty arms, and the fire medallion materialized, a burning sigil of crimson and gold. "Take this, Link. My power, my legacy. Use it to bring down the evil king. The Gorons will never forget your courage." As the medallion floated into Link's hands, the chamber filled with golden flame. Link nodded solemnly. His heart burned brighter than ever. But there was no time to rest. As the winds howled over the mountaintop, Link gazed east toward the Zora's domain. He remembered the vibrant, crystal-clear waters and the joyful songs of its aquatic people. But what awaited him now was deathly silence. The domain was frozen. A thick layer of ice coated the once flowing river. The great waterfall had slowed to a crawl beneath layers of frost. The sapphire walls of the Zora sanctuary shimmered with a bitter chill. The water was gone. The people were trapped beneath the ice, unmoving, encased like statues. King Zora sat frozen on his throne, his expression locked in silent anguish. Link moved quickly, searching for survivors or clues. At the far end of the domain, where the waterfall once roared freely, he found an unnatural chill radiating from the cavern behind it. A blizzard's breath poured from the opening. Inside, frost and mist swirled through a narrow passage. This was no natural occurrence. The curse had taken hold. Drawing his sword and adjusting the Goron tunic to fend off the icy winds, Link stepped into the mouth of the cave. The ice cavern awaited. Chapter 13, Beneath Still Waters. The bitter chill of the ice cavern gnawed at Link's every step, wind screaming through narrow corridors of frost. The once lush caverns near Zora's domain had been twisted into a frozen labyrinth, encased in unnatural ice that shimmered with magic. Crystalline spikes jutted from the floors and walls, and icy winds howled with a haunting chill, whispering remnants of the Zora's pain. Inside, Link pressed forward, navigating narrow ledges and slippery paths while avoiding freezing gusts of wind and the deadly blades of spinning ice traps. Freezards, ghastly white monsters that exhaled blizzards, blocked many corridors. Their breath could turn the warmest blood to frost in an instant. At the cavern's heart, he encountered a chilling puzzle of shifting blue blocks which had to be pushed and aligned to activate passageways. Patience and precision were essential. Link moved carefully, solving the puzzle and finally reaching a chamber glowing with magic. There, in a shallow pool surrounded by ancient runes, he found a pair of iron boots, enchanted footwear that would allow him to sink through water as though made of stone. Yet their weight made movement difficult. He would not be able to use them freely without aid. Moments later, the familiar shimmer of light filled the room. Sheik appeared, silent and watchful, the only sign of warmth in the cavern. "We meet again, hero," Sheik said, his voice quiet over the howling wind. "The flow of time is always cruel, but in the frozen stillness, even it cannot pass freely. Zora's domain is but one victim of the evil that now festers beneath the waters of Lake Hylia." He taught Link the melody needed to return to the lake, the serenade of water. Its notes were crisp and elegant, echoing like water droplets falling in stillness. With the iron boots in hand and the melody etched in memory, Link left the ice cavern, stepping back into the cold sunlight. Lake Hylia was not as Link had imagined it. Where once the sun had danced across endless waters, only silence remained. The lake bed lay mostly dry, exposing the bones of the lake's once vast expanse. A single stretch of water surrounded the lakeside laboratory, its eccentric proprietor still at work despite the conditions. "Eh? What's that? A visitor? It's been ages," the old lake scientist chirped as Link approached. "You here for research? Perhaps to donate a frog? No? Well, there's always fish." He chuckled and invited Link to explore, pointing him toward the nearby fishing pond, still miraculously open. There, Link reunited with the peaceful pastime he had enjoyed as a child. The rod felt natural in his hand, and the water's calmness offered a rare reprieve. Despite spending hours here, it was almost as if time had stood still altogether, and Link felt calm for what felt like the first time in his adult life. And then, after a long and patient wait, the line pulled taut. Link wrestled with a monstrous fish, the legendary Hylian loach, and finally reeled it in after a taxing struggle. The old man at the counter gawked. "Well, I'll be. That's the biggest one I've ever seen. You, sir, are a fishing master." But the quiet could not last. Beneath the lake's still surface, Sheik had spoken true. Darkness had corrupted the water's heart. Link approached the dry pedestal at the center of the lake, where the water temple lay sunken. Using the serenade of water, he warped directly to the temple's entrance, donned his new iron boots, took a deep breath, and sank into the abyss. Bubbles spiraled around him. Sunlight filtered through the surface, slowly fading as he descended to the stone platform far below. Link took the courage within him and opened his clenched eyes. He breathed and took a moment to let this new sensation of water breathing sink in. He stood before the temple gates, massive, cold, and silent. The door creaked open and he stepped inside. The water temple waited. Chapter 14, Labyrinth in the Deep. The moment Link entered the water temple, an oppressive silence greeted him. A deep blue light filtered through the flooded halls, distorted and wavering like the memories of the past. Echoes of dripping water rang through the stone corridors, creating a symphony of solitude. This place was no ordinary dungeon. It was a sanctum of fluidity and change, built in harmony with the lake's waters. It was also a labyrinth. Rising platforms, flooded passageways, and sealed chambers weaved together into a twisting maze. The very water levels of the temple had to be manipulated to progress. Link quickly realized he would need to raise and lower the water multiple times, using his newly learned serenade of water and markers etched into sacred walls to find the right levels. Armed with his iron boots, Link sank into the depths to find hidden switches, sunken keys, and locked doors. He switched constantly between heavy boots and his normal gear, his every move deliberate, precise. At times, he had to remove the boots mid-sink to avoid traps and spikes that jutted out of the walls. Clams, spikes, and stingers lurked in the flooded passages. The temple's guardians, corrupted by Ganondorf's influence, launched ambushes from murky corners. Link's hookshot proved invaluable, as did his strength and agility as he fought in tight, waterlogged chambers. Deep within the temple, in a chamber lit only by a shallow pool and eerie fog, Link found something stranger than any monster, his own reflection. There, standing in the middle of a mirror-still lake, was Dark Link. At first, the doppelganger stood motionless. Then, like a reflection come to life, it drew a sword, exactly like Link's. They clashed blade to blade in a haunting duel. Every strike Link made was parried with perfect timing. Dark Link matched him move for move, knowing his tactics, his rhythms, his very instincts. Only by shifting his strategy, using unpredictable feints and the hookshot, was Link able to gain the upper hand. With one final strike, Dark Link shimmered, distorted like a ripple, and vanished. Link took a long breath. That fight was not just against a shadow, but against himself, a test of will and identity. Deeper still, Link found a mighty chest. Inside lay the Longshot, an upgraded form of his hookshot, with a longer reach and greater power. It allowed him to bypass traps and reach otherwise inaccessible areas, opening the final path to the temple's heart. Navigating the rotating platforms and spiraling staircases, Link at last reached the final chamber. There, a great pool churned violently. A monstrous figure stirred beneath the waves. From the deep emerged Morpha, the giant aquatic amoeba. Controlled by Ganondorf's dark magic, it had taken control of the temple's core, able to manipulate water itself. Tendrils lashed out from a central nucleus, grabbing and slamming with immense force. Link remained at the chamber's edge, waiting for the core to rise within range. Timing was everything. With the long shot, he pulled the nucleus from its watery armor and slashed with his sword. Again and again, the core evaded him, hiding in the currents. But Link's aim was steady, and his strikes swift. Finally, the core shattered with a shriek of magic. Morpha dissolved into the water, and silence returned. The cursed flood lifted. Link was taken once more into the Chamber of the Sages. There stood Princess Ruto, regal and calm. "I always knew you would come back to me," she said softly, a proud smile crossing her face. "You kept your promise. You are a man now, Link, and I am one of the 6 sages." She held out the water medallion. "Take this. With it, my power is yours. Together, we will aid you in your battle against the King of Evil." As the medallion descended into his hands, Link bowed his head. Ruto's voice lingered in the chamber as he faded back into Hyrule. "You must hurry. There is little time left." Chapter 15, Shadows of Our Past. The air over Kakariko village carried a scent of dry leaves and wood smoke, but for a brief moment, it was peaceful. As Link passed through the village gates, the sun dipped behind the ridges of Death Mountain, casting the homes and hills in amber twilight. Children played, the elderly tended to their porches, and the echo of a melody danced faintly from the village's old windmill. Drawn to the sound, Link ascended the creaking steps and found the windmill man turning in rhythm with the gears. "Ooh, I remember you! That boy with the ocarina," he called, his voice tinged with frustration and familiarity. "You played a strange song long ago. It made this windmill spin wild. I've never forgotten it." The man turned the crank of his music box and played a haunting, whirling tune. The melody looped in on itself, chaotic and intense, the song of storms. Link listened, his own ocarina responding with the notes, memories stirring of rain that once came unbidden, of a song that would change the very skies. The winds within the windmill picked up as the song filled the air, turning its sails faster, groaning with mechanical strain. The man laughed wildly. "Yes, that's it! That's the song!" With that melody now his, Link left the windmill. But peace would not last. In the days that followed, Link spent time aiding the villagers. He delivered messages, returned lost items, and solved odd puzzles scattered across the town and the nearby fields. Though simple in nature, each act seemed to draw people closer together. Each item gained and traded symbolized more than just utility. It was memory, gratitude, hope. From a pocket cuckoo, warm and cooing in his arms, to odd masks, strange mushrooms, and a treasured odd potion, each exchange reminded Link of something childlike and bright, fleeting moments in an age stained by darkness. But just as comfort settled in, the sky turned crimson. Flames erupted from the village's rooftops, screams echoed through the air, a monstrous force surged from beneath the ground, tearing a chasm in the soil and spewing malice into the sky. Link dashed toward the inferno. There in the village square stood Sheik, surrounded by fire. A ghostly presence, a terrible, writhing shadow beast spiraled from the well itself. Its shriek split the sky, and with a flash, it struck Sheik down, sending the Sheikah warrior crashing into the dirt. Link rushed forward, but was too late to stop the escape. The evil slipped away into the shadows. That was the shadow spirit, sealed long ago beneath this village, Sheik gasped, slowly rising. It has returned, stronger than before. It must be stopped. But you cannot fight it as you are. He paused, grim. You must return to your youth. There are things hidden in the past, beneath the surface, that only a child can reach. Link nodded solemnly. He returned to the Temple of Time, placed the Master Sword into its pedestal once again, and let the warm, golden light consume him. The magic unwound, and the boy he once was stood once more in its place. He left the temple quietly, the song of storms still echoing in his ears as thunder rolled in the distance. Back in Kakariko, the fires had been extinguished, and the village cloaked in uneasy silence. Link approached the now reopened well, feeling a dark pull from below. Armed with his child-sized courage and the lessons of his journey so far, he descended into the blackness. Below, the world twisted. The bottom of the well was no mere cavern. It was a place warped by illusion and sorrow, a nexus of decay and fear. A symbolic representation of Hyrule's bloody and violent past. Blood-stained walls, invisible traps, rooms that should not exist. It pulsed with dark energy, thick with the breath of the dead. Yet Link pressed on, guided by the whispers of the ocarina, the strength of memory, and the light of purpose. He had come so very far from the forest boy without a fairy he once was. He would face the past to protect the future. The Legend of Zelda Ocarina of Time, a fan retelling, Part 3, Shadow, Spirit, and Salvation. Chapter 16, The Dead Are Not at Peace. The golden light of the Temple of Time faded, and with it, Link's towering strength and adult form dissolved. He stood once more in his smaller frame, lighter, quicker, but somehow more fragile. The Master Sword loomed above him in its pedestal, unreachable now, a symbol of strength he could no longer wield. The transition from adulthood to childhood was not just physical, it was emotional. Link stumbled slightly as he left the pedestal. His hands, once steady and powerful, were now small and soft again. The iron boots felt impossibly heavy, the bow he had grown adept at using now too large for his frame. But more than the awkwardness of muscle memory, there was the weight of perspective. He had seen a world torn by darkness, grown with grief and decay. He carried knowledge no child should bear, and now wore it behind wide eyes and a youthful face. Still, resolve hardened his heart. If his size was a limitation, it was also a gift. Only a child could explore the bottom of the well and confront what lay hidden beneath Kakariko. He had to embrace this form, this part of himself, because it too held courage. The entrance to the bottom of the well was unassuming, just a hole, dark and silent. But descending into it felt like falling into a waking nightmare. The very air was damp with the breath of the dead, and the walls wept rot. Nothing was as it seemed. Link soon discovered that the shadows in the well bent reality. Walls existed where there should be open space, and doors vanished when approached. It was a realm ruled by illusion, memory, and pain. Flickering torches cast long, trembling shadows across blood-streaked floors. Hands reached from ceilings. Screams echoed from nowhere. Link relied not on sight alone, but on instinct. He listened for shifts in air, for the creak of unseen traps, for the groan of invisible walls. Carefully, he crept past spinning blades and pools of poisoned water. And then came the beast. The dead hand slithered from the ground like a nightmare given flesh, pale, bloated, its elongated neck lurching with grotesque speed. Link was pinned by one of the many disembodied hands rooted to the floor, held immobile as the creature loomed. He did not scream, he waited, struggled, slashed with his sword the moment it lunged. The fight was visceral and close, and when the monster fell with a keening wail, the air seemed to loosen, just slightly. In a hidden chamber beyond, he found a sacred relic, the lens of truth, a tool of clarity and light in a place of deception. When raised to his eye, the world was revealed. Illusions melted away, traps laid bare, paths once sealed opened. Armed with this knowledge, Link returned to the Temple of Time and retrieved the Master Sword once more. He became an adult again, not just in body, but in resolve. Back in Kakariko, the people spoke in hushed tones. The scars of the fire still marred the village. Smoke stains lingered on brick. The elderly clutched rosaries. Children asked their parents if the monster would return. They looked to Link now with eyes full of hope. Not fear, not awe, but trust. "You're the one who saved us," said a carpenter. "Whatever escaped that well, it's still out there, isn't it?" Link nodded. Guided by Sheik, Link made his way to the Shadow Temple, a place once sealed behind a stone door deep in the graveyard. The lens of truth revealed the path. The barrier fell, and the way forward opened. The Shadow Temple awaited. Built by Sheikah hands to house and hide Hyrule's darkest secrets, it whispered with forgotten screams and ancient sins. It was here that the spirit of the shadow had returned. And it was here Link would end the curse that had plagued this quaint village all through Hyrule's long history. Chapter 17, Hyrule's Bloody Past. The mouth of the Shadow Temple yawned wide beneath the cragged stone of Kakariko's graveyard, a gaping wound in the hillside. Mist coiled in the darkness beyond, refusing to cross the threshold. Only with the lens of truth held firmly in hand did Link pass through the illusionary wall, stepping beyond the world of the living and into a realm of whispers and ash. Here, the Sheikah had hidden their greatest shame and darkest knowledge. The air was still and cold. Every footstep echoed unnaturally in vast halls where no wind stirred. Carved into the walls were warnings in faded Sheikah script. Only one with the eye of truth shall find the path forward. And it was true. Without the lens, Link would have walked off ledges into endless chasms, stumbled into spinning blades, or missed hidden doors etched in deception. Everything here was crafted to confuse, to terrify, to protect the secrets buried in shadow. The traps were unrelenting. Rows of guillotines dropped with mechanical finality, slicing the air where Link had just passed. Bladed fans roared to life, sending piercing gales through narrow corridors. Invisible walls, false floors, and rooms filled with shrieking redeads turned every step into a trial. Yet Link moved with the calm of experience. Sword ready, bow strung, bombs and magic at his side. In one vast chamber, a river of the dead carried an ancient ferry boat, moored to the bones of long-forgotten warriors. Link climbed aboard and played Zelda's lullaby to awaken the vessel. The boat groaned and lurched, moving along its ghostly track through a sea of darkness. Midway across, spectral warriors emerged, Stalfos, clad in rusted armor, wielding decayed swords. The battle atop the unsteady boat was fierce, steel clashing over the abyss. With precision, Link struck them down, and the boat crashed into its final destination, a crumbling dock just before a vast abyss. Beyond lay the final test. A stone bridge, lined with statues of weeping angels, led into a cavern unlike the rest. It pulsed with a sickly, rhythmic thrum like a heartbeat. The walls twisted, curved, enclosing like the walls of a drum. And then it rose. From the depths emerged a formless horror. A massive creature, unseen until it reared its twin, disembodied hands from the earth. Its body, headless and hulking, surged into the light. The only visible part of its face, a single glaring red eye atop a spectral neck. This was Bongo Bongo, the escaped spirit from the well. A shadow beast born of hate and pain, now unshackled. The room itself became an instrument. Link found himself thrown onto a giant drum that bounced with every step. The beast pounded it with ghostly hands, disorienting him. Vision blurred. Balance became a weapon. Using the lens of truth, Link found the monster's form in the air. Its hands, its eye, its core. He loosed arrows into the flying hands, dodging slams and shockwaves. When stunned, Bongo Bongo's eye surged forward. Link fired with precision. 1, 2, 3 arrows. Then with sword raised, he leapt and struck. The beast howled in voiceless agony. The cycle repeated, faster, more chaotic, the drum trembling beneath him. But Link endured, a whirlwind of steel and courage. Finally, with a cry that shook the cavern, Bongo Bongo collapsed into dust and shadow, its essence sucked into the abyss from whence it came. Silence returned. A blue light rose from the center of the platform. Link stepped in, and the temple faded into white. He stood once more in the Chamber of the Sages, a luminal and ethereal space that started to feel familiar to Link at this stage. Beneath the seal of the Triforce, the stone emblem of the shadow floated above him. There, standing within the circle of light, was Impa. She stood tall, her Sheikah eyes calm. The boy with the noble heart, I always knew you would return. The people of Kakariko owe you their lives. I am the Sage of Shadow, sworn to protect the temple and the realm beyond. She extended her hand, and the shadow medallion floated toward Link, bathing him in cool violet light. Please give my thanks to Princess Zelda, she said, voice soft, and protect her. You are what's left of hope. With that, she vanished into light. Link stood alone once more, but not truly. Each sage awakened brought strength to the seal that would bind Ganondorf, and in each victory, he grew not only in power but in purpose. Chapter 18, The Sands of the West. The desert winds whispered of secrets and sun-baked trials. Link rode Epona hard across the vast plains of Hyrule Field, the hooves of his steed beating a steady rhythm toward the western horizon. Dust rose beneath them as they galloped into the narrowing canyon mouth of Gerudo Valley, a jagged gorge lined with cliffs and dry heat leading to the fortress of the desert people. At first, it seemed deserted. All that was heard was the wind rustling the banners strung across the wooden bridges. But as Link crossed the final span, he was ambushed. Gerudo warriors, swift and graceful, leapt down from the walls, surrounding him with curved blades. We don't take kindly to intruders, the leader sneered, especially men. Before Link could respond, a blow struck him from behind. The world spun, and then blackness. Link awoke in a prison cell, the metal bars cold and unmoving. Guess I should have expected this, he thought, rubbing his head. Peering through the narrow window, he saw the heart of Gerudo Fortress, a labyrinthine network of sandstone towers and wooden platforms, all patrolled by swift-footed warriors. But Link was nothing if not resourceful. Using his hook shot, he latched onto a distant target, pulling himself from the cell silently. The fortress became a playground of stealth. He darted from shadow to shadow, waiting until guards turned their backs. If spotted, he was thrown back into a cell, but each time he escaped with growing confidence. In the dungeons of the fortress, Link discovered a group of imprisoned carpenters, captured when they'd tried to join the Gerudo ranks. "Get me out of here, will ya?" one cried. "Those women are crazy." One by one, Link freed them, battling fierce Gerudo guards in tight corridors. The battles were swift and skillful, the warriors agile, but Link's mastery of swordplay and tools turned the tide. When the last carpenter was freed, a Gerudo commander appeared. But instead of hostility, there was amusement. "You have skill and honor," she said. "We do not often allow men into our ranks, but you've earned it." With that, Link was declared an honorary Gerudo, granted free passage through the fortress. He was given a Gerudo token and access to training grounds once reserved only for their finest. Link stayed for a while in the Gerudo training ground, a twisting gauntlet of traps, puzzles, and skill challenges. Here, he sharpened his abilities further, using fire and ice arrows, solving block puzzles under pressure, defeating waves of foes within time limits. It was a crucible of knowledge, preparing him for trials yet to come. Outside, he tried his hand at horseback archery, galloping Epona across the target lanes and striking bullseyes with practiced ease. Each shot was a meditation in motion, a union of speed and precision. But even as the Gerudo welcomed him, Link's path led deeper into the sands. With the sun hanging low, he followed a trail into the haunted wasteland, guided only by a spectral figure, a phantom flag-bearer who shimmered in the heat. The wind howled like forgotten voices, and without the lens of truth, Link would have been lost forever. The sands played tricks. Ruined structures loomed like mirages, and whirlwinds threatened to pull him under. Yet he pressed on, heart steady. Finally, he reached the desert colossus, a massive ancient statue of a woman with arms outstretched, her stone body half buried in sand. Carved into the cliffs beside her was the entrance to the final temple, the Spirit Temple. Link stood before it, sensing its dual nature. The magic here was old, older than the kingdom of Hyrule itself. He would not be able to face this alone, not in his current form. The sands whispered again, this time in the voice of destiny. Chapter 19, Spirit Broken in Two. The heat of the desert waned as twilight settled over the desert colossus, bathing the sand and stone in gold. Before the Spirit Temple's entrance, Link paused. A whisper on the wind called to him, not from the temple, but from the past. He heard the soft notes of a melody carried on the breeze, and as he stood among the shifting sands, Sheik appeared once more, cloaked in mystery. "This temple is unlike the others," Sheik said, eyes reflecting the dying light. "Its power is divided. You must become what you once were to pass through its first gate." Sheik raised a harp and played a melody both haunting and pure. "This is the Requiem of Spirit. Let it guide your soul across time." Link listened closely, memorizing the notes. As he played them back on the Ocarina of Time, golden light enveloped him, warping space and memory. In an instant, he stood once more within the Temple of Time, smaller, lighter, a child again. He felt the shift in his bones, the return of youth and vulnerability. The Master Sword still rested in its pedestal, for now he was once again the boy of the forest. With Saria's ocarina pressed to his lips, he played the Requiem again, and light carried him back to the desert. The Spirit Temple loomed before him, its great halls ancient and unmoved by time. As a child, Link could now access areas previously unreachable. He entered through a low crawl space and began exploring its forgotten corridors. The air was dry and heavy with old enchantments. Ancient statues of goddesses loomed from alcoves, their eyes long closed. Sunlight filtered through cracks in the ceiling, creating shifting mosaics across the stone floors. The temple was alive with traps and puzzles. Link fought through cursed enemies, Anubis statues that mirrored his movement, flame-spewing traps, and armored iron knuckles whose immense axes shattered stone. He used his boomerang, slingshot, and clever use of bombchus to bypass ancient mechanisms. But the strangest part of the temple was not its puzzles, it was its people. In one chamber, Link encountered a woman unlike any he had seen. Fierce-eyed and sharp-tongued, she wore the colors of the Gerudo, but moved with secrecy. She introduced herself only as Naburu, a rogue from the fortress. "I don't work for Ganondorf," she said, arms crossed. "In fact, I'm trying to stop him. I came here to raid the temple, take the treasure before it can be used for evil. But these witches, they've sealed the upper levels." Intrigued by Link's bravery, Naburu asked for his help. "There's a passage I can't fit through, but you can. Find what's inside and report back." Link agreed, squeezing into a hidden tunnel and retrieving a silver gauntlet, a powerful relic capable of granting the strength to move great stone blocks. But when he returned, the chamber echoed with laughter. Above Naburu, twin shadows appeared, Kume and Kotake, the evil sorceress sisters, long allied with Ganondorf. "You meddlesome child," cackled Kume. "We'll deal with you later," hissed Kotake. With a wave of their magic, the sisters bound Naburu in a beam of dark energy. "We have use for this woman," they said. "She'll serve our master well, eventually." Before Link could act, they vanished, taking Naburu with them. Link stood alone in the chamber, the silver gauntlets clutched in his hands. He looked down at them, then back at the temple entrance. The path forward lay not in the body of a child, but in the strength of a hero. He raised the ocarina once more and played the prelude of light, vanishing in a burst of radiance. The time had come to return as the hero of time, to finish what he had started. The light of dawn broke over the Temple of Time as Link returned to manhood, grasping the Master Sword once again. The time of waiting was over. With the silver gauntlets in his possession, he traveled back across the shifting dunes of the haunted wasteland to the desert colossus, his purpose renewed. Now armed with the strength of an adult and the knowledge of what awaited inside, Link re-entered the Spirit Temple. The air remained still and dry, but something deeper now stirred within the stone walls. The ancient structure seemed to sense his return, and it was ready. Wearing the silver gauntlets, Link pressed forward, lifting massive stone slabs that had once barred his way. His fairy bow, hookshot, and bombs served him well as he made his way through deadly traps and rooms thick with enemies. The temple was as much a test of courage as it was of strength. He faced another towering iron knuckle, but this one fought with uncanny skill and ferocity. As the armor shattered from Link's final blow, a gasp echoed across the chamber. Beneath the broken helm was a familiar face, Nabooru. She fell to her knees, dazed and free from the witch's curse. "Link," she whispered, blinking, They controlled me. I couldn't stop them." Link reached out silently, helping her to her feet. Nabooru looked into his eyes and managed a weary smile. "You really are something else, kid. I mean, hero." But their reunion was brief. The temple trembled as a powerful magic surged above. Nabooru looked up. "Go. Finish this. I'll find my way out." Climbing to the highest sanctum of the Spirit Temple, Link confronted the twin witches Kum and Kotake at last. Hovering on their brooms, the sorceresses launched fiery and icy spells in tandem, forcing Link to dodge and strategize. Utilizing the mirror shield, Link absorbed and reflected their elemental attacks. After several grueling exchanges, the witches, frustrated, merged into a monstrous hybrid form, Twin Rova. The battle reached a fevered pitch as Link alternated between fire and ice, redirecting their magic with precision. With one final deflection, the twin sisters were struck down, vanishing in a flash of light and curses. Peace returned to the chamber. Light bathed the platform, and Link was transported once again to the Chamber of the Sages. There stood Nabooru, now cloaked in light and purpose. "I knew there was something about you," she said, her voice echoing with newfound clarity. "You saved me, and now I will do my part to save Hyrule." She placed her hands together and closed her eyes. "As the Sage of Spirit, I swear to aid you in the final battle. Take this, my power." A beam of golden light surged into Link, granting him the final piece of the power he would need to confront Ganondorf. As Nabooru faded into the sacred plane, she looked back one last time. "You remind me of someone I knew long ago. Stay strong, hero of time." With the Spirit Temple purified and the final sage awakened, Link stood alone once more on the stone platform in the desert. The 6 sages were gathered. The time was near. Only one path remained. Chapter 20. The Trials of Evil. With all 6 sages awakened and each temple purified, Link stood upon the edge of fate. Yet even as the wind carried whispers of the final battle, the hero of time took a moment to walk the land he had spent so long protecting. There were still favors left undone, small ripples in the grand current of destiny. He returned to Hyrule Field, helping travelers stranded by monsters. In Lon Lon Ranch, he checked in on Malon and Talon, ensuring their safety and sharing brief laughter over memories of horse races and the bond with Epona. He traveled to Zora's domain, still frozen under a glacial curse. Though he could not yet thaw its waters, he left the people hope, delivering items, solving lingering puzzles, and using his lens of truth, hookshot, and Din's fire to uncover secrets hidden beneath ice and stone. In Kakariko Village, he played songs to bring comfort to children. He used the Bigoron sword, acquired after a long and intricate trading sequence, to help a man in training overcome a fierce trial. Each act, though small, strengthened the bond between hero and homeland. And then, when all debts were paid and all tools honed, Link returned to the Temple of Time. There, waiting by the Master Sword's pedestal, was Sheik. You have grown strong, Sheik said, voice tinged with something deeper. The 6 sages are ready. All that remains is you. As Sheik raised the harp to play one final melody, golden light engulfed them both. The music slowed. The air stilled. Then, with a flash of power, Sheik was gone, and in his place stood Princess Zelda. Link, I'm sorry I had to hide my identity, she said, her eyes filled with sorrow and strength. I've watched you grow into the hero this world needs. The Triforce of Wisdom is mine, and you hold the Triforce of Courage. Ganondorf seeks the final piece. But before she could say more, the temple shook. A dark vortex surrounded her. Ganondorf's voice boomed across time. You foolish girl, did you think I wouldn't see through your disguise? Dark energy surrounded Zelda, imprisoning her in a crystal prison. Link reached out, but it was too late. She vanished in a blinding flash. Ganondorf's taunting voice echoed through the chamber. Come to me, Link, if you dare. The final path had opened. Link left the temple, and the ground trembled as he approached Ganon's castle, where Hyrule Castle once stood. Now twisted by evil, it towered above a chasm of darkness, guarded by shrieking redeads and crawling shadow beasts. But Link was not alone. The 6 sages appeared, their power converging to form a rainbow bridge, a glowing path across the abyss. The music of destiny surged as Link crossed the light bridge toward his final trial. Inside the castle, darkness was thick and cold. The interior was a twisted monument to Ganondorf's corruption, each wing of the fortress modeled after the elements of the temples. One by one, Link cleared each chamber, using the arsenal of weaponry he had amassed and the technical skill set he had at this stage mastered. In the forest wing, he used his bow and mastery of sacred melodies. In the fire wing, he donned the Goron tunic and battled amidst lava flows. In the water wing, the iron boots and clever use of torches and blocks led him through. The shadow wing called for the lens of truth and careful timing through invisible traps. The spirit wing tested his use of light and reflection, using the mirror shield to redirect beams. Finally, in the light wing, sacred power helped vanquish phantoms and illusions. With each seal broken, the core of the castle revealed itself. Magic surged in the air. The final battle loomed. Link climbed the spiral staircase, heart pounding beneath his green tunic. Each weapon at his side had been earned through trial and growth. Every scar bore witness to the courage he carried. And far above, waiting on his dark throne, Ganondorf waited. Chapter 21, The Demon King. Link stepped into the heart of darkness. The echoing corridors of Ganon's castle wound upward in a maddening spiral, and with each step, the sound of an organ grew louder. It was no ordinary melody, it was a dirge, soaked in malice. Ganondorf was playing it, and the music reverberated through the stone walls like the heartbeat of the castle itself. The climb was long. The walls seemed to close in tighter the higher Link went, the air heavier with every breath. Shadows slithered across the stone floors, and the very torches along the walls burned with an unnatural blue flame. Yet Link pressed forward, his boots falling in rhythm with the organ's ominous crescendo. Finally, at the summit, massive double doors loomed. He pushed them open, and the organ stopped. There, in the chamber's center, Zelda hovered above the ground, trapped in a glowing prison of magic. At the far end of the room, his back turned to the door, Ganondorf sat before a massive pipe organ. Slowly, he rose. "So you've come, boy," the Dark Lord said without turning. "The Triforce parts are finally reunited." He turned, eyes glowing with hatred and triumph. "Do you truly think a child in a man's clothes can stop me?" With a roar of power, Ganondorf raised his hand, and the battle began. The chamber trembled as he unleashed waves of dark energy. Link dodged, rolled, and returned volleys of light with his master sword and light arrows, learned from Zelda's teachings. The battle was fierce. Ganondorf hovered high above, protected by a cloak of magic. Dark balls of pure malice flied at Link, and he in turn answered with volleys of pure light from his bow. With steady aim and courage forged in fire and shadow, Link fired a light arrow into the core of Ganondorf's chest, stunning him. As the sorcerer fell to the floor, Link seized his chance and leapt across the collapsing tiles, delivering strike after strike. With one final cry, Ganondorf crumpled, the castle shaking in response. The dark magic holding Zelda shattered. She fell into Link's arms, weak but alive. "You did it, Link," she said weakly. And just as silence fell atop the tallest tower of the castle, the ground began to shake. "We have to get out of here," Zelda cried out. "Ganondorf is using what power he has left to tear this castle down and us with it." Together they ran as the castle began to collapse. Ceilings cracked and fell, walls split open, vomiting fire. Zelda led the way with her power, opening sealed doors and breaking barriers, while Link shielded her from collapsing debris and emerging enemies, Stalfos, Lizalfos, and Redeads. In the final hallway, the ceiling gave way. Link grabbed Zelda, rolling out of the collapsing corridor just in time. They emerged into the night. Silence fell. The towering monstrosity that had been Ganon's castle crumbled behind them, swallowed by darkness. Zelda and Link stood breathless, hearts pounding, the stars above flickering as if in relief. Silence again fell. They made it out alive, and Ganondorf had finally met his demise. But peace could not last. From the rubble, a monstrous roar erupted. A pillar of flame surged upward, and from the smoke rose something no longer human. Ganondorf had transformed. Massive, tusked, and cloaked in darkness, the beast that emerged was Ganon, a towering demon of rage and ruin. His eyes burned like molten lava, and in his hand 2 massive blades shimmered with killing intent. A boar-like beast of pure anger and raw power. Link did not hesitate. He was tired and his body felt torn, yet he stepped forward, sword raised. This was no longer a battle for justice or vengeance. This was a battle for the very soul of Hyrule. Chapter 22, The Final Blow. The monstrous form of Ganon towered over the ruins, blades clashing like thunder, eyes seething with hatred. Link, battered but unbowed, stood before him, the Master Sword gleaming faintly in the darkness. Zelda stood behind, her hands glowing with sacred light. "Link, I will hold him," she cried, forming a protective barrier that locked Ganon in a circle of golden power. "Strike now! This is our only chance!" Ganon roared, swinging his blades with primal fury. The ground split beneath his feet, flames erupting as the essence of destruction bled into the world. But Link moved swiftly, using every skill he had honed through temples, trials, and time. He dodged thunderous strikes, launched arrows into Ganon's glowing wounds, and rolled beneath the beast to slash at his vulnerable tail. The battle was brutal and unrelenting, but they fought not with fear, but with purpose. When the final blow came, it was righteous and true. Link raised the Master Sword high and drove it down into Ganon's face, the blade piercing the evil that had twisted the land. The beast let out one final, ear-splitting roar that echoed into the void, and then collapsed, defeated. Above them, the sky tore open as the 6 sages appeared. Saria, Darunia, Ruto, Impa, Naburu, and Rauru, their hands raised to the heavens. "Ancient creators of Hyrule," Rauru intoned, "now open the sealed door and send the evil incarnation of darkness into the void of the evil realm." A beam of divine light shot downward, wrapping around Ganon's crumpled form. The air twisted with power as the sages chanted in unison. Ganon screamed, his voice fading into nothingness. The seal was complete. The evil was contained. Peace had returned to Hyrule. In the quiet after the storm, Link and Zelda stood once more in the sacred realm, before the pedestal of time. The Master Sword pulsed gently in Link's hand. "Your journey is over," Zelda said softly. "The time you lost, it must be returned." Link nodded. They stared at each other's adult faces one last time, and then without a word, Link stepped forward and gently slid the Master Sword back into its pedestal. As it locked into place, his body shimmered and shrank, returning him to the child he once was. The body of a child once more. This time forever, but with the mind and experience of one much older who had been through so much. Zelda raised her hand, her magic returning her and Link to their own time. As the light faded, one final sound echoed through the chamber, the fluttering of wings. Navi, his faithful companion, drifted upward, her light dim but steady. "Navi?" Link whispered, but she said nothing. With one final circle above him, she turned and flew into the sacred light, vanishing beyond the chamber. Link stared after her, the silence deafening. He didn't cry, he didn't chase, he simply bowed his head. "Thank you," he whispered. Days passed, then weeks. Each region of Hyrule repaired the damage that had befallen them and readjusted to this new, calmer world they now shared. Then came the great celebration. Under stars and colorful lanterns, Lon Lon Ranch came alive with music and laughter. Tables overflowed with food. Children chased Kukos. Gorons danced wildly. Zoras drank from steep goblets, arm in arm with the townspeople of all regions of Hyrule's vast land, Hylia, Gerudo Valley, Castletown, and Kakariko Village. Link saw them all, faces from his journey. Every soul he had helped gathered to honor the boy who had saved them. Malon sang, Talon toasted, and even Ingo smiled. Link stood beneath a tree, quiet but content. Zelda approached, dressed not in royal robes but simple linen. She looked at Link, her eyes soft and understanding. "Is it really over?" she asked. He looked at her, then at the stars. "For now," he seemed to say, though no words left his lips. She stood close to Link, and they looked out upon the field filled with so much joy. Then Link felt a hand gently brush against his, and Link and Zelda's hands met. And in that moment, the world paused. The music seemed to fade away. Time stood still. Small, young, and uncertain, but filled with hope. Together, they would step into a new world of their own making.